Okay, so imagine a factory. But this one is so small that billions of them could fit on the head of a pin. And yet it's so incredibly complex, it builds everything needed for life itself. Today, we're not just going to study the living cell. We're going to take a guided tour of that factory. Let's dive in.
It sounds a little like the start of a riddle, right? But the answer connects all three with this one single idea. They're all built from smaller, specialized parts that have to work together in, well, perfect harmony. And in biology, we call these tiny workshops organelles. They're all housed inside the cell, which really comes in two main models. You've got the plant cell and the animal cell. These are the two factories we're going to be exploring today.
Now, before we jump into the factories that actually make us up, it's super important to know that life basically uses two fundamental blueprints. You can think of it like comparing a simple one-room workshop to a massive, high-tech manufacturing plant.
So on one side, you have prokaryotic cells, like bacteria. These are the efficient, no-frills models. Their DNA, which is the master blueprint, just kind of floats around in the main factory space, the cytoplasm. But on the other hand, you have eukaryotic cells, the kind that build plants, animals, and, you and me. These are way more complex. The DNA is safely tucked away in a central office, the nucleus, and there are dozens of specialized departments or organelles, each with its own walled-off space.
But here's the thing. Despite all those differences, every single cellular factory on Earth, whether it's simple or complex, shares these four essential features. You've got a cell membrane acting as the outer wall, controlling what comes in and out. The cytoplasm is the factory floor where all the action happens. The DNA provides the master blueprints for everything the factory is going to make. And, critically, they all have ribosomes. These are the actual machines that build the products.
The best way to really understand this factory is to just follow an order from start to finish. So let's say our product is a protein. Its assembly line is this amazing network of departments called the endomembrane system.
So, here's our game plan. First, a copy of the blueprint gets made in the nucleus. Then, it's sent out to the main assembly line, the rough ER, where ribosomes build the raw protein. After that, it's off to the Golgi for final packaging and labeling, and finally, it gets shipped out in a little transport bubble called a vesicle. Let's take a closer look at each step.
Our first stop is this huge, sprawling network called the endoplasmic reticulum, or just ER for short. Now, it has two different areas. See the part that's studded with all those little dots? That's the rough ER, our protein assembly line. The other, smoother section is, you guessed it, the smooth ER, and it's a workshop dedicated to making fats and handling detox.
And here they are, the machines themselves, the ribosomes. These things are absolutely essential. A single cell can have literally millions of them. Their job is to read the RNA copy of the blueprint and just churn out proteins, piece by piece, at an incredible speed. Some ribosomes float around freely, making proteins for the cell zone use, but the ones we're following are attached to the rough ER, making products that are meant to be shipped out.
Okay, so once it's built, our protein travels in a little bubble called a vesicle over to the Golgi complex. Just think of this as the factory's finishing and shipping department. It's here that the protein gets folded into its final 3D shape, maybe gets a few tags like sugars added on, and then it's sorted and packaged into brand new vesicles with a very specific shipping label, telling it exactly where to go.
But a factory is so much more than just its assembly line, right? To run smoothly, it needs a whole support crew for things like maintenance, storage, and waste disposal.
So let's meet the cleanup crew, the lysosomes. These are basically little bags filled with powerful digestive enzymes. Their job is to break down anything the cell doesn't need anymore, worn-out organelles, food particles, even viruses and bacteria. It is the ultimate cellular recycling program.
And you can see exactly how it works right here. A lysosome merges with a vesicle, dumps its enzymes inside, and just digests the contents into molecules the cell can actually reuse. It's an incredibly efficient system for keeping that factory floor clean and resourceful.
Next up, the warehouse, the vacuole. Now, animal cells have a few small ones for storage, but plant cells have this massive central vacuole. It doesn't just store water, it fills up like a water balloon, pushing out against the cell wall. And that internal force, we call it turgor pressure, that's what keeps plants standing up straight instead of wilting.
So, we've seen how the factory builds its products and cleans up after itself. But where does all the energy to do all this work actually come from? Well, every factory needs a power grid.
And in life, we've got two main types of power generators. On the left here, we have the mitochondrion, the power plant that you'll find in almost all eukaryotic cells.
And on the right, the chloroplast, which is like a solar panel found in plants and algae. Both of these guys are absolute masters of energy conversion.
The main difference between them is really the direction the energy flows. Mitochondria perform what's called cellular respiration. They take fuel, like sugar, and burn it to release energy in a usable form called ATP. Chloroplasts, on the other hand, do the exact opposite. They perform photosynthesis, using sunlight to create that sugary fuel in the first place. And this brings us to a really common misconception. A lot of people think it's simple. Plants have chloroplasts, animals have mitochondria. But that's only half the story. Plant cells actually have both. They use their chloroplasts to make their own food, sure, but then they use their mitochondria to burn that food for energy, 24/7, just like we do.
So as we finish our tour, it's easy to get lost in all the details of each department. But the real magic, the truly incredible thing, isn't in any single part. It's in how they all work together.
As our source material puts it, the secret sauce is in the interaction between organelles. The production line needs energy from the mitochondria need parts that get recycled by the lysosomes, and the entire factory is following blueprints that come from the nucleus. It's this seamless, self-regulating, incredible system.
Which really leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it? Each individual organelle, each molecule, none of it is technically alive. And yet, when you put them all together in this precise, coordinated factory, they create the phenomenon we call life. How a collection of non-living components gives rise to a living, breathing system, well, that's one of the deepest and most fascinating questions in all of science.